Hi everyone, my name is Steffen Laukert. I work for Waste to Wellness, as you can see in the background, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about our Beyond the Pain tool, which you can see here. It's designed to help people and practitioners as well as employers to engage with their patient, with their employee, as well as if you are using it for yourself, to see how pain is impacting your day-to-day, how you're feeling it's impacting your life, your work, and how people, for example, your employer, as well as your GP, or you yourself can help to live beyond pain. One of the most important things when it comes to this conversation with your staff members is to make sure that you have gone through the general understandings of what persistent physical symptoms or chronic pain is. You don't need to know all the conditions, but what you need to know is that chronic conditions and persistent physical symptoms have a real impact on people's lives that can be felt across their social lives, into the workspace, and will show themselves in one way or another in the space of work. We're going to have a little chat about your pain today and how it's impacting your work. Just want to say this is not in any way about us as an employer telling you off or anything. We're here to try and figure out how we can help you. Kind of think about your day-to-day at work and how the pain might be able to kind of be accommodated within that. Yeah? And I think it's quite helpful to go through this tour and have a little chat about how the pain is impacting you, get a little bit of an understanding also to see how you are seeing the situation. So this is the section about how to use it. So how do I actually do this? And I'll just show you again here the tool. And as you can see on the left and around it, there are these white spaces on the other side of the dotted line. On this empty spaces, we would invite people, so the patient, the staff member you're speaking to write down the daily tasks, the things that they have to do, the things they are enjoying to do when they are at work, but also to consider which of these things are the things where the pain really impacts me on. Where is the pain stopping me? How is it changing me? Or how is it changing how I engage with this task, or my colleagues, or my work environment, etc.
Right, okay. So, I mean, every day I've got meetings, and nearly every day I've got meetings and calls.
How is the pain actually impacting on that?
It can do. So, depends on how busy it is. If there's a day where I'm sitting a lot, then I can get really stiff. And when it starts to do that, it niggles and can sometimes interrupt my concentration on meetings and calls. And then obviously that impacts my energy, my ability to sort of, I suppose, engage properly on the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. What else do you think is a day-to-day tasks for you?
Deadlines. And sometimes, if I've been in pain for quite a lot of a few days, then deadlines might, and I'm more recently deadlines have started to slip as a result of pain, and not just the impact on, not the pain itself, but kind of the energy.
Okay, now that you have written things down with your staff member on the edges of the paper, you can introduce a conversation around, well, how does pain actually impact, your situation? And you do that by inviting people to write down the pain. So what is it that they want to call it? It may just be their pain, or it may be their specific condition. But at the end of the day, what matters is that it's clear that in the middle, your pain finds its place. And when they've written down pain or whatever condition they may want to write down, you as a employer or HR person, or team lead, or whatever else might apply, start folding the piece of paper on the dotted lines to kind of just have the wide covers show. And once you've done that, you would introduce a conversation about how this kind of symbolizes that when pain or persistent physical symptoms as well as chronic pain kick in, that takes over life and not much is left over. Okay, thank you. So I'm just gonna want to show you this because this is tasks and things that are your day-to-day. Sometimes when pain happens, as you've described earlier, it impacts your work and some of the things will kind of go away. And what often happens, perhaps in work, but also in your day-to-day life, is that pain takes over and then you have a day where it's just about pain and nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, the days where I'm in pain, I suppose I notice the pain more and I'm just more conscious of it and much more, I suppose, frightened about what to do and don't know what the next day is going to be like. And so there's that kind of, I suppose, worry.
This isn't the end of the line. This isn't what it is like to live with pain. There is hope. Now is the point where we are asking people to write down things that they are already doing to manage their pain. And to ask them, to invite them to think and reflect about whether or not these things are working for them in the workspace. And then the next part is inviting them to think about, well, what can they do? What can they do when they are in pain or when they have a pain day that takes more energy off them, that they can't spend that energy on work or on specific tasks that they have identified earlier. And then it is about finding the relationship between what's on here and how can I translate some of these tasks to here. So what are the things that you are doing to address your pain? So if you have pain, what do you usually do to help yourself with that?
I think I've learned that I need to move more rather than less, which is, so things like just going for a quick tea break or that sort of thing. Or even on days where I work from home, it's easier as well in some ways because, you know, literally doing some of the physio exercises I've been given, which I'm not going to do in the office and I'm obviously not dressed appropriately for it and things like that. So maybe having on really poor pain days, the option to work from home so that I can do some of those rather than just movement by walking around, movement where I can actually get on, you know, my hands and knees and actually do some of the physio exercises would be helpful.
That's perhaps a flexible working request we can think about or a reasonable adjustment. And it's certainly something we can talk about after this meeting as one of the things to look at, to try out and see how they support you in your day-to-day. So now that you've had this conversation, hopefully you and your employee have had a good chance to get to know the difficulties around managing the condition or the persistent physical symptoms in the workspace, but also have developed an idea of how we or you as an employer can support them, but also what sort of things they can do themselves. The main point I want to make here is that when you are a patient or a service user, an employee that has chronic or persistent physical symptoms, then that doesn't automatically mean that I know what the best reasonable adjustments are for me. I might not be even familiar with the term reasonable adjustment or think that I need one. So occupational health is a really good point because it can help the employee, you yourself, understand what may I actually want to consider. What have other people found helpful and what can a professional tell me about what is a reasonable adjustment in this situation? So perhaps there's a little bit of a task to do around understanding how the diary can be used to pace yourself a bit more throughout the day with movement as well as with your meetings and with the energy that you have to spend. So thinking about how much energy do I have today? How much energy or time do I need between things and tasks to recover a little bit, to bring the energy that I need for the next task? And then again, that kind of goes quite nicely with what you talked around prioritizing and to-dos. So perhaps we can have a look at kind of rejigging your diary and how you approach your tasks, so you can build in that pacing approach. So the last thing I'd like to mention is our resource section. I think it's really good if you know a lot of stuff around persistent physical symptoms as an employer, as an employee, but I think it's important to recognize that you don't need to know everything, that there is stuff you can share with your employees around for example, on signpost to flipping pain or living well with pain or rethink pain. These are all resources that are freely available online that people can access to learn more, but also to learn tools and practices that can help them in their day-to-day. And the last thing I want to say is thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and thank you for using this tool to support your staff members. If you do have any questions or want to share any feedback with us, please do get in touch. But otherwise, I do hope you have a nice day.